be with you and a warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powerscourt with Kilbride. You must forgive my lack of a collar this morning, but I have taken this beautiful sunny opportunity to record from the Riverwalk in that equally beautiful Powerscourt estate. So a very warm welcome to you this morning on this, the 5th of June, Pentecost Sunday. But first, as our service begins, we pause for just a moment to acknowledge God's presence around us now.
They were all together in one place. Suddenly, a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. Now there were staying in Jerusalem God-fearing Jews from every nation under heaven. When they heard this sound, a crowd came together in bewilderment, because each one heard their own language being spoken. Utterly amazed, they asked, "Aren't all these who are speaking Galileans? Then how is it that each of us hears them in our native language? Parthians, Medes, and Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya near Cyrene, visitors from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs, we hear them declaring the wonders of God in our own tongues." Amazed and perplexed, they asked one another, "What does this mean?" Some, however, made fun of them and said they have had too much wine. Then Peter stood up with the 11, raised his voice and addressed the crowd. "Fellow Jews, and all of you who live in Jerusalem, let me explain this to you. Listen carefully to what I say. These people are not drunk, as you suppose. It's only 9 in the morning. No, this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days, and they will prophesy. I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood, before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. And everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved."
This is a job for the tripod to hold my phone this morning, because I get very animated when I talk about the Holy Spirit, and so we should. It is an incredible force. And yet sometimes I think that out of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit is the one who gets the least mention. Even though we do hear Jesus talk about the Spirit, this is the Spirit that moved across the waters of creation. Ruach, a feminine verb, a moving thing, a powerful force. This is the Spirit that Jesus sends when he says to his disciples, "In a little while you will see me no longer, but I will not leave you as orphans. I will send the Advocate to you, the one who will guide you and lead you from within." And so this morning we are taken into that upper room in a very busy Jerusalem, up over the streets that are packed with people. And we are taken into the company of that small group of people who have journeyed with the Christ throughout the past 3 years of his life on earth. They have watched in awe as he has transformed the lives that he has touched. The people who have drawn close to him have been healed. They have been, as I say, transformed. They have been shown in the person of the Christ a glimpse of God's kingdom here on earth in person form. And so these disciples have followed him and been in themselves transformed. They have watched him enter Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. They have watched the crowds who are crying for him and for his glory turn within a short space of time to crowds that are crying for his death. And some of them have watched him die. Others, presumably, may have hidden themselves away in fear of the same consequences, or perhaps they couldn't even bear to watch what was to lie ahead of their Messiah. And then they have seen him stand among them in perfect form, the risen Christ who has shown them his wounds and promised them his Spirit. These are the people we meet this morning in the book of Acts. These are the people who are not surprised by God. Oh, well, I would imagine they're not. But what is about to happen will definitely shake them. Along comes this amazing Spirit like a wind. Jesus speaks of the Spirit as wind to Nicodemus. You cannot see it, you don't know where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with the Spirit, this powerful moving force. I imagine it moves down like a thunderous wind through the narrowed little streets of Jerusalem, rattling the pots and pans that are hanging outside the shops and billowing the colourful scarves. It does not enter the house or the upper room by the door, but by the very bowels of the building itself. It rises up in a thunderous fashion and electrifies the room with sparkling and crackling tongues of flame over the heads of all who are gathered there. It bestows upon them the ability to communicate, to understand things that they've never known before. and the people downstairs in the street are in awe of what's happening. And by doing this, the Spirit opens the door for that wonderful speech we hear St. Peter speaking this morning. This is the person you crucified. This is the Christ who came and told us of a kingdom and has come and risen from the dead. And this is the Spirit that you are now witnessing. So today, as we contemplate the Spirit, it's really important for us to remember that this was not a once-off event that took place 2,000 years ago. This is an ongoing movement. This is a triune movement of the Father, Son and Spirit within our lives. The Spirit rumbles like a mighty wind throughout the narrow corridors and streets of our lives. It rises up within the very heart and soul of ourselves, into the higher, upper room of our consciousness, and crackles above our heads in flames of desire and urge when it comes to standing up for injustices, when you feel that I'm going to burst if I don't speak out on a certain topic or to the betterment of a situation or another person. That is the crackling flame of the Spirit. Be under no illusion. You are being drawn, guided and led by this powerful force. Finally, remember two things today. The one is you have to ask. This amazingly powerful, creative force stands quietly around you as well and waits to be asked. The second thing is to remember this, that when you ask God for one particular thing, it is highly likely that He will take you on a long journey, and there may be pit stops along the way in which you grow. But you are led by the Spirit in answer to your request, if you ask. You are led to the edge of a precipice, to the edge of a darkened wood, to the beginning of a path you have never trod before. From the absolute bowels of your very being, you will be turned upside down, not by a malevolent force, but by a force that wishes you to grow and will push you to the outskirts of your being in order that you become more fully yourself, more fully human, and more fully divine in the process. May the Spirit of God continually challenge you this day and onwards. We give thanks today, God, for your amazing Spirit in our lives. Bring it on, I say.